The long and short scales are two of several large number naming systems for integer powers of 10, that use the same words with different meanings. Long scale: every new term greater than million is 1 million times larger than the previous term. Thus, billion means a million millions, trillion means a million billions, and so on. Short scale: every new term greater than million is 1,000 times larger than the previous term. Thus, billion means 1,000 millions, trillion means 1,000 billions, and so on. For integers less than 1,000 million, the two scales are identical. From 1,000 million up, the two scales diverge, using the same words for different numbers. This can cause misunderstanding. Countries where the long scale is currently used include most countries in continental Europe and most French-speaking, Spanish-speaking, and Portuguese-speaking countries except Brazil. The short scale is now used in most English-speaking and Arabic-speaking countries, in Brazil, and several other countries. Number names are rendered in the language of the country, but are similar everywhere due to shared etymology. Some languages, particularly in East Asia and South Asia, have large number naming systems that are different from both the long and short scales. For example, the Indian numbering system. For most of the 19th and 20th centuries, the United Kingdom largely used the long scale, whereas the United States used the short scale, so that the two systems were often referred to as British and American in the English language. After several decades of increasing informal British usage of the short scale, in 1974 the government of the UK adopted it, whilst the European Union and other non-English speaking countries adopted the long scale, and it is used for all purposes including official. With very few exceptions, the British usage and American usage are now identical. The first recorded use of the terms short scale and long scale was by the French mathematician Geneviève Guitel in 1975. Comparison. At and above 1,000 million, the same names are used to refer to numbers differing by a factor of an integer power of 1,000. Each scale has a logical justification to explain the use of each such differing numerical name and value within that scale. The short scale logic is based on powers of 1,000, whereas the long scale logic is based on powers of 1 million. In both scales, the prefix by refers to 2, and tri refers to 3, etc. However, only in the long scale do the prefixes beyond 1 million indicate the actual power or exponent. In the short scale, the prefixes refer to 1 less than the exponent. The relationship between the numeric values and the corresponding names in the two scales can be described as the relationship between the names and the corresponding numeric values in the two scales can be described as the root mil in million does not refer to the numeral 1. The word million derives from the Old French million from the earlier Old Italian million, an intensification of the Latin word mil, 1,000. That is, a million is a big thousand, much as a great gross is a dozen gross, or 1728. The word milliard, or its translation, is found in many European languages and is used in those languages for 109. However, it is unknown in American English, which uses billion, and not used in British English, which prefer to use thousand million before the current usage of billion. The financial term yard, which derives from milliard, is used on financial markets, as, unlike the term billion, it is internationally unambiguous and phonetically distinct from million. Likewise, many long-scale countries use the word billiard for 1,000 long-scale billions, and the word trilliard for 1,000 long-scale trillions, etc. History. The existence of the different scales means that care must be taken when comparing large numbers between languages or countries, or when interpreting old documents in countries where the dominant scale has changed over time. For example, British English, French, and Italian historical documents can refer to either the short or long scale, depending on the date of the document, since each of the three countries has used both systems at various times in its history. Today, the United Kingdom officially uses the short scale, but France and Italy use the long scale. The pre-1974 former British English word billion, post-1961 current French word billion, post-1994 current Italian word billion, German billion, Dutch billion, Swedish biljon, Finnish biljuna, Danish billion, Polish billion, Spanish billion, Slovenian bilijon and the European Portuguese word bilhão all refer to 1012, being long-scale terms. Therefore, each of these words translates to the American English or post-1974 British English word trillion, and not billion. On the other hand, the pre-1961 former French word billion, pre-1994 former Italian word billion, Brazilian Portuguese word bilharo and the Welsh word billion all refer to 109, being short-scale terms. Each of these words translates to the American English or post-1974 British English word billion. The terms billion and milliard both originally meant 1012 when introduced. In long-scale countries, milliard was redefined down to its current value of 109, leaving billion at its original 1012 value and so on for the larger numbers. Some of these countries, but not all, introduced new words billiard, trilliard, etc., as intermediate terms. In some short-scale countries, milliard was redefined down to 109 and billion dropped altogether, with trillion redefined down to 1012 and so on for the larger numbers. In many short-scale countries, milliard was dropped altogether and billion was redefined down to 109, adjusting downwards the value of trillion and all the larger numbers.